I go?
Yeah, well.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'm Nick Durrant, MD of Bluegrass Digital. Thanks for coming. And this is the first Umbraco Meetup of its kind, I think, in Africa, which is great. Hopefully it's the start of many more in building the community here. Bluegrass as a business has been involved with Umbraco, I think, from late 2007, early 2008, mainly through our clients and working in the UK, which I was based there for 15 years. Bluegrass as a business has had a very strong UK focus, and hence us getting into Umbraco in the sort of early days. David Farrell over here, who's an ex-Bluegrass individual that got us involved with Umbraco, I think, in the early days. So we've been working for a long time. So I think today is really more about sharing and interesting to hear why everyone else is interested in Umbraco, why you're here, and obviously share knowledge and hopefully build the community and create a bit more buzz around Umbraco in South Africa. It's certainly starting to gain traction. We've worked with a few businesses here, on Umbraco specific projects, which is great. We are obviously a certified partner, and we've got Umbraco out here at the beginning of last year to train us to become certified. So the first certified company in Africa. And so it's starting to build a bit of a spiral effect, which is great.
This isn't going to be a complete self-plug.
No, it's not a self-plug, but I think I'll show you Bluegrass Digital. This is obviously not here to promote because it's very much a community thing. But it just gives you a bit of a flavour for our background as a business and what we're all about. So I know we've got some UCT guys here, obviously interested in the technology. We've got someone from EVT, which is great, and they're obviously getting into technology, and I think we'll get into more of the techie stuff, and then obviously you can ask questions and specifics and share knowledge and that sort of thing afterwards. It's a bit of a video. It gives you a flavour for what we as a business are all about.
Check the volume.
Over there.
You think it's all this?
No. It's all nice.
bit of a flavour for what sort of stuff we sort of play in that creative technology space. I suppose why Umbraco? Why did we get into it? From the early, or the turn of the century, I suppose. We've been doing content management solutions, very custom-built CMS platforms in the early days. A lot of frustration because you're almost spending a lot of time reinventing the wheel each time, and obviously retesting those simple aspects like might be things like a rich text editor, tools and that sort of thing. For every single project you get involved with. So we played a lot with different platforms. I don't know if some of you know DNN, for example, is a .NET New, which is another platform which we did attempt for a period of time, which was a horror show. We stayed well away from that. We still have a few legacy ones we're dealing with, but we moved to Umbraco, I think, because one, from the user and the client side, it has a great interface. It's very Scandinavian and IKEA-like from a user perspective, which is, clients generally just love it, which often helps in terms of training or selling the product. And also it's a framework, and it's open in terms of where you can take it and what you can do with it. In the video, in fact, most of those projects, bar a couple of maybe mobile apps, were all built on Umbraco. And so it's a great open source platform in terms of, and with enterprise-like features, I suppose, is how I sum it up. So, we definitely are strong, I suppose, pushers of Umbraco and continue to sort of drive it with projects that we get involved with. So I think it's time to get more into the heavy tech stuff now. And
where's Farad?
Farad.
He's hiding.
Hi everyone, my name is Farad. I'm basically one of the devs here.
You're not just another dev, come on. You're the junior intern, right?
Yeah. So basically what I was speaking of was just an overview of the new version of Umbraco called Project Ball, and then take you basically into how we code within Umbraco, how we use Umbraco as well, from the client point of view, as well as the tech technology point of view. Project Bell. What is Project Bell? Project Bell is soon to be released Umbraco version 7. The reason why there's a big fuss about it is because it's entirely rewritten new UI of the back office. The engine's still the same, but the entire UI has been totally changed. But before you can see obviously the beauty, you have to look at the beast. Okay, emphasis on the new UI. This is basically the old or the current UI of Umbraco right now. Emphasis that we made on the new UI has been basically purely on the user experience and also quickly and quick enough to access content wherever you are within the page. So what I've done was taken the sections part over there and moved to the side. So it's totally horizontal movement of the mouse instead of going to the bottom and then going to your content and going to the bottom and then content. And also what I've done also a specific emphasis on the tabs. What used to happen was that text or developers used to actually put a lot of properties and such and content on these tabs, and I had to have a numerous number of tabs and stuff like that. And there was just the wonder why is the content loading slowly and stuff like that. Because the total structure was actually totally not made for that sort of thing. To actually have several amount of tabs and so on and so forth. Okay, what I'll do is I'll show you now the beauty. This is the new login screen of Umbraco 7. As you can see, the content sections are all on the side over there. No structures, still very similar and stuff like that, but what happens is now there's no right click on it, there's actually a gear which you can actually access properties on. As you click here on the node, you can see the content section has changed. The publish buttons and stuff, the same things at the bottom. And where screens used to be at the top. Over there. Also, what is happening, the notifications appear in the bubble, as a bubble on the side of here, but now it's actually a label at the top. Over there. As you'll see now, that is creating a document of content over here. As you can see, this document allows easy access to content and mostly used. So basically what you can see is, as you can see, there's still horizontal moving within the UI, nothing at the bottom as such. People can actually swap the mouse across and basically edit content as such, and also load content as well. There's a new search functionality within Umbraco. Basically, that search functionality allows you to actually access or search for data throughout the CMS. So you can do properties, content, and so on. And you can actually get quick links as well towards that content over there. Also, the context menu is still the same. Basically, create, publish, and so on and so forth as well. And also, you'll click a quick link now, and you actually get directly to the towards the content that's been searched for over there. Settings. What's basically showing now all the sections and stuff within the Umbraco, settings and so on. Okay, just an overview of the UI. It's a brand new UI basically that's in Angular used for AngularJS. I don't know if you guys have AngularJS, but it's basically organized in this JavaScript framework, which Nathan will probably speak about later. The container document types doesn't load as node structures anymore, actually loads as a table. Members and localization. Members section of Umbraco has now has now imported from its node structure and stuff that also been imported into AngularJS. Localization is it's currently been done on the server side as well as client side to support the Angular views. Search, as I mentioned, now supports basic content direct access to context when you search now. So basically, when you search now, before introducing your node information, now you search basically brings up nodes, properties, anything basically one within the CMS node, and provide quick links to the results. The editors, content, media, and data typing as well. Browsers and data. Before, what happened was Umbraco never used to work on any other device besides the desktop now. It sort of worked on the tablet, but wasn't really a pretty site on the tablet. So now what they've done was that the new they catered for desktop, even cell phones, and as well as tablet as well. When it will be released, it's currently at 94%. Should be released at about 21st of November of this year. So hopefully we can see that pretty soon.
Is that considered version 1 not ready?
It's currently RC release candidate. It's been alpha, it's been in beta, it's been RC, so basically now it's just bug fixes in RC. Once the bug fixes, there's no new features been added and stuff like that. Once the new bug fixes have been done, the target date is obviously on the 1st of November. What are people saying about the new version of Umbraco? They will love it, especially with ease of use and so on and so forth.
How does the AngularJS change things? Is it
the way the AngularJS changes stuff is it has like binding capabilities, but binding capabilities actually happens on the client side. So therefore you will have actually much more speed in your clicks now. You won't have to actually do pullbacks and stuff like that, or complete page refreshes all the time stuff. It actually seems like it's almost real time as such, happening more instantly than before, for instance.
I'm sorry, for the search, do you still have to install something or not?
No, it's all working. Okay, let's take a glimpse into our demo now. We code it Umbraco. What we normally do is we like to add personal touches to our Umbraco installation stuff before it actually goes up into the. As you can see, our login screen has a custom-made image of the customer or client's logo. What else does it actually adds personalization to the site and to the CMS. So the customer doesn't realize actually using Umbraco. The client thinks actually it's my CMS, I'm actually using the CMS. As you can see as well, monsters, for example, monster images colors are green and black. We've also sort of stuck to that color scheme over here as well, green, blacks and whites over there. And that also creates a sort of sort of wow factor for the client and stuff because they feel that they actually own this product, it's their product and stuff like that. And who knows, you might even add a couple more dev days onto your time as well.
I was going to say, Farad, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much time a day do you spend customizing those icons?
Well, with ease, I don't create the icons myself. I just use some sort of icon image searcher and stuff like that. And also make sure that there's no royalties attached to it before you do it.
They really request that a lot. They request that a lot.
Yeah.
Custom icons.
The customers don't actually request the icons, that we just feel like we add the personal touch to the icons. Because basically before what you'll see, sorry.
So you being imperfections.
So what you'll see normally is just folders and stuff, and folders obviously don't mean anything to people. Icons, images and stuff obviously means much more than just simple folders to people.
You can use the Umbraco fam icons in it.
Yeah.
So don't install it though. Just go download it and use the icons. It slows Umbraco down tremendously.
Another thing also we like doing in our Umbraco installations is also creating a global setting area. Now, generally with a site or web or any sort of application, there's these settings that needs to be used throughout the site. So to contain these settings in that global setting, we like to sort of keep it in a section called global settings, and each node representing a certain amount of settings or certain settings within the site. Now, that way it's easily accessible from a technical point of view as an admin now, and also easily accessible from a developer point of view, which can call one section and get all the settings and stuff in one section. Whereas we have seen certain times when people create settings and stuff all over the site, and to get this settings you have to go here, to get that settings you have to go there, and that sort of thing, and start fetching stuff from other places. Whereas here it's localized, it's in one place, and you can actually fetch settings and stuff like that within one section. Another thing also we like to have on our node structures and stuff like these very basic or very base sort of properties called hide from navigation, hide from sitemap, and also redirect. The reason why we have it there is because we sort of dynamically create our menus. For instance, the hide from navigation, obviously if the user clicks hide from navigation, you'll be able to hide any page or anywhere basically. You just have to specifically do anything to the page to hide it. It's there and available for you. The redirect option, if the admin or the editor needs a page to be redirected to somewhere else, it's automatically just there. All that's clicking the button, redirect, and it's gone somewhere else. Basically, the page will be redirected somewhere else. And there are no fancy footwork and no fancy coding to be done to actually do that, to allow the user to do that as well. SEO properties. Also another nice to have. A lot of emphasis has been placed on SEO these recent couple of years. Obviously because people want to be high ranked within Google and so on and so forth. So what we do is add sort of another base tab as such called SEO content, and inside here we'll have meta tags, meta description, meta keywords, and so on and so forth. So when every page gets published now, these meta tags, you're basically able to access or actually put these meta tags, meta descriptions on the page you publish now automatically. Also without having to some developer somewhere actually adding meta keywords and stuff for you. The editor themselves can actually add the meta tags or even open graph tags and stuff like that so themselves without sort of any sort of intervention from the developer as such. Repositories. Another nice to have is basically you always think about all this miscellaneous data such as country drop-downs, managing those countries, email groups, managing those email groups, currencies, managing those currencies. So what we like to do here at Bluegrass is actually create a section called repositories, and underneath that section is all the miscellaneous data such as what can be managed within the CMS. Also doesn't have to have intervention from the developer to actually add another country to the country list, add another currency to the currency list, and so on. So, as you can see over here, in the section highlighted is email groups, and there's different type of email groups over there, and email groups can be managed. On this particular controls that over here, there's actually a list of users and stuff where we can actually click off which members and stuff on your site we like to receive, or like to add to this particular group. So that's how you can use the repository section just to add miscellaneous data. One of our favorite controls to use within Umbraco is called the embedded content control. Or what this is basically, sometimes you need repeatable data. Sometimes a page will have several images on, and you also need to manage several images on one page. So what this control allows you to do is customize or add custom fields to it, such as media pickers, type of text boxes, simple content editors, and so on. But for the example of the media image example, with regards to image example, say you set up this control to actually only handle a certain amount of images. So it allows you to actually choose multiple images in one control. Before, what people used to do, they used just to add images to one page. They used to have sub-pages of images or something just to add one page. But now, with this control, it allows you to keep everything on one page and allows you to choose images from that one page. As you can see over here, we actually use placeholder for the email messages and stuff. We actually use placeholders as one of our things, just as a matter of interest. What we do with these placeholders is we dynamically fill that content as email goes out. So if they say full name, we basically take a member of the site's full name and stuff and slap it into the placeholder. So when the email actually goes out, it goes out with that person's email. So we actually get personalized emails and that sort of thing. So that's what we do with that. A funky new control we created, also as a matter of interest. What this control does is actually allows you to choose hotspots on the image. So if you drag parts of the image, across parts of the image, you can actually put text on the image. So when it shows up in the front end, that image will actually have that text and stuff. Like I said, across the image over there. So that's actually quite one of the nice things. Here we are, some Umbraco libraries. There's a big story behind this. What happened was, our code used to look like this before. All sorts of shapes and sizes, all different colors, and lots of spaghetti before that. So what they fixed all that spaghetti. Always made the code very bloated and fat looking all the time. It was high maintenance, as you can see. Extremely high maintenance, always a problem to change, always a problem to scale our sites and that sort of thing. To remedy that, we started taking a different approach, where we needed to take our maintenance tasks down and stuff and actually improve our productivity as well at the same time. So what we did was we started creating our sort of base library, or base DLL and stuff like that. We actually just put our common code across all sites we use that thing. Things that we reuse and to had to reuse all the time. Code reuse as well. And also quick, so we also needed something that we could actually get up running and quickly just start developing a site or bring a site together and stuff. So that's why we needed to create the central DLL or this main base DLL and stuff. We actually start developing on and just sort of set up everything quickly as possible and get the site up and running quickly as possible. And also, another thing also provides structure. This for me was very important as well because code was all over the place. It was hard to maintain. And we needed to obviously rename all the code as such and also bring it all together and also allow devs to actually get on, when they get onto a bug or get onto a scan, to a modification on the site, they're able to fix it, that the bug or the created modification extremely quickly and stuff. Not keep on having to look through the code and deep look through the code and look through the code, trying to fix something or even change something as well. Or change something on one side and then basically everything else breaks on the other side. So what we did to change that, we started ramping up our level of understanding of customers, of what customer needed, what customer wants, and that sort of thing, which was very important and led us to actually realize there was a need for a common language between ourselves and Umbraco and our code as well. Common language, what I mean is basically a language that the customer spoke and that we as devs could also understand. And we spoke back to the customer, they could also understand. A ubiquitous language, like a term coined from domain-driven design, we need to basically speak a common language. When we spoke about products, we speak about products to the client, we speak about products to the project manager, we speak about products to the dev, and we speak about products in our code as well, sort of thing. So as you can see, we carry that language, that common language also through our code. So when we speak when we speak about certain things like products, for instance, that word products and stuff, and that language products and stuff exists in our code. Because currently what we used to do, we used to always say this node, that node, or get this node, or we never knew what the node was, or what it was. The node is basically, for those of you who don't know, node is basically the actual content tree. Each page in the content tree is represented by a node within code. So the part of the content tree is basically a node within code. After that, UDD was born. I called UDD because of Umbraco domain driven design. This is a made-up term, by the way. Please don't point it to your people.
What does it mean?
Doesn't mean anything.
I like that.
But our favorite know it as our U pattern, our Umbraco way. Let's take the scenario, for example. The client sells products on the website, and obviously they want you, or they have a list of products that they want to sell to members of the site, and they want you to show this list of products on their web page. So there's basically three factors there. There's a product list, and there's a member. And there's four factors there. Your starting point generally in Umbraco is doc types. The doc types is basically your templates as such, your template definition as such, content definition of the doc types now. So the starting point of where you would go in Umbraco is actually creating the doc type and then creating a class representation or object representation in C#, whatever code language you use, VB, to actually represent the doc type, a strongly typed object. So this is how it would look. Product has a description, price, and image, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, it's a well-structured class map. It's clean, and it's bare minimum, and does what it's supposed to do. Product listing. Product listing is obviously the parent of the product, and product listing contains a list of products. So as you can see, the languages carries through. The customer talks product, and the customer talks product listing. The product listing contains a list of products, and that's the language, an English sort of language, that jargon, that ubiquitous language carries through to the code now. Okay, this is what I would have looked if we didn't do it our way. This long lines of code now. As you can see over here, this is how you normally would get out.
Yeah. We can share this presentation.
It's a long one. I'll show you how you actually normally get
Read the whole page.
Umbraco.
Read the whole page. Could you walk us through that?
Okay, that's it's the long thing we show you the bottom.
So does that translate into what you showed us on the previous slide?
So no. What this is basically the control section. Also, what displays the list of products on the UI side now. So taking the same sort of concept and also displaying it on the UI side, this is how code looks now. So from that long list of code and stuff like that, long checking what sort of properties there are and so forth, and so on and so forth, we actually can just directly bind to repeat the controls and so on and so forth.
So with this, do you write templates for it, or do you set out developer picks, or it's just code review that actually ensure that it follows up with what the customer wants?
So I understand it.
I mean, with your structure, you say now if you work the way you're doing
Yeah.
it, like the code now, basically it's almost like it's uniform.
Yeah, it's uniform enough. So.
But now, if you, how are you managing it? Are you managing it via code review? If you put up specs for it, like internally?
Okay.
Managing that, because still, Bible could still write the old way of writing code.
Yeah, it is actually monitoring stuff like that, and actually you'll see in the next slide now, which we actually have.
You don't see his work, he's hiding it behind there somewhere.
There is code reviews and stuff. Well, basically the peer reviews, which I was coding at. Also, we try and maintain. Sometimes it's difficult because everyone has their own style. But we try and keep the basics right. As long as we have the basics right and the core fundamentals right and stuff like that, everything should be okay. And stick to that sort of pattern at least in a way, because I think if we stick to some sort of pattern and stuff like that, then there will be uniformity as well. Because I can't tell another developer, but look, you have to code in this way because this is the way you code it. But
You can try.
I can try, yeah, but
The thing is, at the end of the day, you're in a team, right? So the team's got to work well together. And if you're coding in one way that's helpful to the rest of the team, in terms of maintaining code, the rest of your teammates are going to struggle when they come to work on a piece of code that you've worked on. So this is why you have these base libraries that you follow within the team.
Yeah. And see, the base libraries also, or the packing notes, the way the base library is written, it allows you, or actually, not it forces it, it basically allows you to say this is the pattern and this is the way you follow. This is the member part, because the person basically places an order. As you can see, I also represent a member within the Umbraco as it's a strongly typed class. And as you can see at the bottom, a member places an order, or a customer places an order. As you can see, the method name even says place an order. So that, like I say, when the customer speaks about a client or the member placing an order, your code also represents the member placing the order.
What is a member?
It's a Umbraco, a member or a customer. A personal message on your site. To make life even easier, here at Bluegrass, we also recommend that you create a custom template of your own. And you spoke about how do we enforce certain things, how do we keep that sort of standard. We have a Bluegrass template which basically puts out the structure for you. So you just follow the structure as well. So in this way we also speed up development where the person doesn't have to worry about creating DLs, creating the libraries, creating the websites, that everything's there for you to start off and start developing with that. So it speeds up your development. Cool, that's it for me. Frontend.
Sure.
Okay.
We have a drinks place.
I think there's one guy that said he was a front-end developer, or like front-end. So front-end's where the fun stuff. So my name's Nathan. I'm a front-end developer for these guys. I'm obviously not from South Africa.
Where are you from?
You're from Bluegrass country.
I'm from the UK. So these guys brought me in. They've needed a front-end dev, and I've been trying to put some processes in place, and I think we're having a good relationship, so we're going to talk about it. Umbraco, the user experience is written in AngularJS. He just touched on that. So what is AngularJS and what does that mean? Well, it's a JavaScript framework. Okay. Well, there's two ways basically to get information from a page. Well, there's one way. You got to do an HTTP request of some sort. How does the browser do that? It does it with the page refresh. How would we like to do that? Well, we'd like to do stuff like mimicking the way your Gmail works. Whenever you're saving stuff, you're not page reloading every single time. And Gmail kind of figured that out, or Google kind of figured that out. And in 2009, they had this dude working for them, and I don't know if you pronounce his name very well, Misko Heavy or whatever. They were working on something called Google Feedback, and he was really pissed off. Said, 17,000 lines of code. I've been doing this thing in my basement, and it's better than what you've got. And he really was. A lot of these programmers are doing all their little personal projects. So he brought it up, and he reduced the project they were working on to 1,500 lines of code. And they said, wow, this is great. How about we make an entire group around this Angular project? So, Angular's really good. Well, HTML is good for static documents. If you just want to put some information on a page, you want to slap some text, you want to slap an image on there, it's great for that. And in the beginning, for most front-end devs, that's all that was required. It was always thought as this really simple thing that just about anybody can do. But it's not good for dynamic views. It's not good for doing logic. So how did we take care of that? Well, in the beginning, we had to have languages like PHP. PHP would hit a server on a page refresh, and it would get some data based upon what you sent it. So all the logic kind of had to be done on the back end. Angular will let you extend the HTML vocabulary. You can actually make your own tags. If you have a heading tag or a body tag, you can create a tag that says Nathan. Well, Nathan will have its own attributes in certain ways that it acts, and you can make your own HTML tags. And it takes Ajax to a completely new level. If you know what Ajax is, basically it's a way to perform an HTTP request without reloading your page. So it allows you to do that in a much more organized fashion. In the beginning, you had to do it with JavaScript, and it was a really long way to do it. Then jQuery came along, and they simplified it. Well, these guys have even done it better. Two-way data binding. So there's a bunch of JavaScript MVCs out there. One of them is called Backbone, which I know that Balaji has a lot of experience in. Well, you pull out some data and you want to work with it. Well, in the process of all of that, you have to compare all of these attributes. You have to look and see if the ID is the same as this ID. If it is, then you do something. So what ends up happening is you spend an entire part of your application doing comparisons just to see if you're actually changing the item that you want to change. Angular wanted to eliminate that completely. And so what they did is they integrated something, and now they've got two-way data binding to where your model, the item, your data that you're working with, as it changes, your view changes. So what you end up doing, jQuery is a really cool feature for letting you change elements on the page. But you're really just changing the visual aspect of the page. You're not changing the data at all. Now with Angular, what you're really doing, and it changes your thought process, we start changing the data. And since the data is binded to the view changes with it. So you always work with the data, and the data is the ultimate source of truth. And I think this is a really innovative idea behind these guys. And directives. Directives I just mentioned, they let you create a new HTML syntax. So kind of summing all of this up with Angular, in the beginning HTML just was sufficient for what you wanted to do, but no one expected it to go to the level that it has, to need to be able to do the things that it's been able to do. So some of these frameworks have stepped in, and I think Angular has got a good idea. Some of the alternatives, Backbone, Knockout, Ember, there's actually a ton of these. And why are we not using those? Well, I think Angular is pretty forward-thinking. I mean, we could use any of these, and we may be happy with any of these. My experience in just about any technology that does a particular task is they all do 80% of what you want them to do, and then 20% kind of okay. So you can get anything you want to do in any of these languages, but ultimately what you want is something with a good community, and I want something that was a little more forward-thinking than some of these other JavaScript applications. And if you want yeah, Google, but Google makes mistakes. Google feedback isn't around anymore. So it's not just, oh, it's just Google, and so that's why I'm choosing it. I spent a lot of time looking at this stuff, and it's just, finally you have to pick one and go with it. But as you can see, Umbraco, now the user interface is built in Angular. So you've got a pretty good community. You've got these major pieces of software that are being built in it. So what you want is something that's not going to pitch up shop overnight, and then you're stuck with all this legacy code that you can't get supported. If you want to check it out, just go to Angular's website, angularjs.org, and I think you'll find it pretty cool. They've got a couple of sample applications that you can make on your own. You can see what you want to do. So, our front-end stack. Any front-end developer is going to use three things: HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Well, JavaScript is going to be used with either jQuery or a JavaScript MVC like AngularJS. The ones that I've chosen, AngularJS, and for a CSS preprocessor, Sass. So, what is CSS preprocessing? I'll talk a little bit. CSS preprocessing is another thing that you weren't able to do in the beginning with just standard CSS. CSS is a style for your site. But the problem is you can't do anything programmatically with it. It just lists the styles for your site. So people started to recognize this, but once it was already out, there was really nothing you could do with it. So CSS preprocessing allows you to do things like create variables. And if you want to say, for every item that has this color, do this with it, you can then start working with CSS in a more programmatically way. The thing that I like the most about Sass is your ability to create file structures. And we'll talk about it in just a second. If you want to include certain CSS files into another CSS file, the only thing you can do is use something called @import. And that really slows down the loading of your page. So if you want to load in a couple of CSS files and use @import, then you can use 2 or 3 of these. But what if you have a large-scale application with tons of modules and widgets, and you want to really separate those things out, but you can't have 150 @imports in your CSS file? It's just not going to work very well. So Sass does a really good job allowing you to break up all your items into a folder structure and then include them in one file, and then you can run cool JavaScript tasks and minify them and kind of zip the whole final package up and deliver it over. So basically you keep your logic and your folder structure somewhere else while finally creating that final output CSS file, which still needs to be used to this day. Why we chose our check stack? Sorry, I kind of jumped ahead there. AngularJS, we wanted something that was forward-thinking, and we wanted something with a large active development. Another reason that I adopted preprocessing with Sass, aside from the modular architecture, is I use this compass. If you get a chance, I wasn't sure how tech-savvy or how interested everyone was going to be in the front end here. I would have brought up like an example of it. But Compass, if you make something in one browser, if you make a style in one browser, chances are, if it's a CSS3 style, there's probably 4 or 5 different ways you have to write that if you want to make it work in Mozilla, Safari, different versions of IE would suck. So, think about if you've got that style all over your page, all over your application. Well, it sucks to have to use that all over again. Well, Compass is basically a community where people have compiled, like, it's almost like code snippets. And these code snippets work in every browser, and you know that it works because the community is so active. You can take their code snippet and you can use it over and over. So if I want to do a box shadow on something, I can create a variable called Nathan's box shadow. I'll use their code structure, and anytime I want to use that same box shadow, anywhere on the page, I just say Nathan's box shadow. And I know that it's going to work everywhere that I use it again. I can define it once, and I can reuse it over and over and over again. Advantages of our project to develop a community and repeating a lot of this stuff. So, only using Sass, not only can we write it in a modular approach, but if you do this, you start thinking a little bit differently in how you write your CSS. And then traditionally, most people just write their CSS from the top down. They just follow their page structure. They see a header, they see a nav, they see a body, and they start doing all this. They start writing all the way down. What you end up doing is you end up writing a lot of styles that depend on other items on your page. So if you decide to remove those items, then it breaks other things. And since I work with all these CMS guys here, they're constantly having to reuse these components, and it's incredibly frustrating when they have to use a component that depends on something else on the page, and it breaks immediately. So they spend the next hour trying to figure out some CSS hack, and it wastes their time. So the approach we're trying to adopt is something called Sass. And you can actually do this in regular CSS, but Sass makes it a lot easier. If you want to learn more, seriously, go to sass.ling and go to Compass, and you'll see. One other note about AngularJS. So REST. What is REST? REST is just a way to get information from a server in a particular format. So we get it in, REST is usually fed in JSON. So what that will do is it will deliver JSON to a page for you. You can then work with it. And once you've got that on your page, you don't have to do any page refreshes. Doing that in Angular is incredibly easy, and that's another plus. Okay, so while we load the front end, this is a repeat. Let me just go through it real fast. So Sass is the most powerful CSS preprocessor out there. There's other ones. There's Less and there's Stylus, but Sass is by far the most powerful. It's mature. It's got tons of features. It's a large active developer community, and it's proven in the industry. A lot of people are using it. I came from a place where they were using it heavily, and they were just purchased for $40 million. Their entire system was using Sass on the front end. So I know people are using it. I feel really confident in it. Compass allows you to write clean markup. It contains all these awesome reusable patterns, and sprites are a breeze. So if you know what image sprites are, if you need to use an image on a page, then you have to go through and you have to cut them all up, and then you can call them what you want to. But what you can do with Sass is you can, I'd love to give an example of this on our team. What you can do is you can simply go through, cut up all of your images, save them into a folder, run a command, and Sass will compile those all into one sheet, create all of the references for you in your CSS, and then you can just apply the styles to your elements. So I've seriously sat for 2 and 3 hours before creating image sprites for large applications. Doing this, I can reduce that to about 10 minutes. And I know that it's going to work. I know that it works because I just did it. So actually, Jacques and I are working on something right now. And what I wanted to get to with all of this was a kind of a format where you're creating elements, they create modules, and then you create layouts. So what you're doing is you're working from the smallest item up. If you have a look at this is an image, but it's just taken from my desktop. Actually, all these little items are HTML. Any of these guys could take these and reuse them anywhere they want. I've made it in a fashion that these don't depend on anything else in the entire sheet. So if you want to use any of these icons, you can use them anywhere on the page and they won't break. And as you can see, once you have these items together, you can simply just assemble your layout however you want it. So this is the palette that I've made for Jacques. Jacques can look at the items, and if he wants to, he can pick and choose and use these, and then create his layout. This is the actual site that I've used with those components. And it's just an easier way to do things.